Hi everyone, welcome to day 4 of BIB Summit. Today, as you can see, we have 4 speakers, yours truly included. I'm Dr. Farah and this is BabyChakra's BIB Summit day 4, and the topic for today is corporate policies to ensure moms returning to work after their maternity break. And to kick off, I'll start with the regular introductions. As you know, I'm Dr. Farah Adam. I'm a family physician from Narayan Hrudayalaya, Bangalore, and I'm author of the book Newborns and New Moms. You can get your copy now. It's available on Amazon, and we'll link it down below. And yes, this book has one chapter dedicated to the maternity break and how to return from work. So if you're interested in this topic, pick up the copy now. Joining us is Miss Aparna Mittal. Hi, Aparna. She is the leading, Aparna Mittal is a leading diversity and inclusion advisor and a corporate lawyer with over 16 years of experience. She's the founder of the Samana Center for Gender Policy and Law and a gender and LGBTQ equality focused consultancy. So Samana Center, please follow her Facebook page, some amazing work she does. And she advises leading companies and organizations on the 5 key areas for equality, gender and LGBT diversity and inclusion at the workplace, anti-sexual harassment, gender mainstreaming in philanthropy and CSR, gender impact investing, and advocacy on gender laws and policy. You can also check out, she's like spoken amazing things and a lot of things on her Facebook page. Please do check out the Samana Center. And she's a member of the FICCI Task Force on Diversity and Inclusion and a member of the advisory board of ETHWorld, the HR-focused platform for economic times. Aparna, welcome to the BIB Summit. It is wonderful to have you here. Could we have a few words?
Thank you. I've been following the path-breaking work BabyChakra has been doing in the parenting space for the past few years. And thank you very much for inviting us on this platform to take the conversation beyond health and family and really what corporates can do to integrate maternity returnees. And very pleased to be on this panel with distinguished speakers like Prachi and Sangeeta, and happy to kick off from here.
Next in our panel is Ms. Sangeeta Rajendran. She is the Senior Associate Director of Human Resources at KPMG. She manages inclusion and diversity and leads the prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. She leads that program. In her 13 years with KPMG, Sangeeta has managed people policies, internal promotion process for leadership roles, business partnering, and global mobility. Her experience in human resources spans across banking and financial services. She's an Aspire mentor to students as part of the KPMG Foundation for Literacy and is actively involved in counseling programs. Welcome, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. Happy to be here, to be part of this exciting, 1 week program that you've put up. Very, very exciting talk shows we've been following, and yeah, look forward to the session.
Great. Next we have is Miss Prachi Rastogi. She is the Diversity and Inclusion Leader for IBM Asia Pacific. She has experience in human resources across healthcare, IT, private equity and technology industry. Her current role involves ensuring gender balance at executive roles, inclusion of the LGBTQ community, and an accessible environment for people with disabilities. She is responsible to create a climate that fosters respect for difference, stimulates innovation, encourages collaboration, and allows employees to work productively in a culturally diverse environment, really a need of the day. And apart from her day job, she facilitates mindfulness sessions in the corporate world and educational institutes. She believes that collaboration amongst humans and increased awareness is what will help us survive and succeed in the coming times. Very welcome over here, Ms. Prachi Rastogi.
Thank you very much. Happy to be sharing this space with you. And I think if we get this cohort right, as in, new mothers, if we treat them well, if we get the right policies for them as a country or as any corporate, I think we've just not sorted them, but also many, many coming generations. So congratulations to BabyChakra for the great work you're doing.
Thanks, Prachi. And kicking off the session today, we are going to be talking about 3 things in this session. Am I right? And let's get started. So the first thing is we're going to be talking about is how are we going to improve the organization and culture at the workforce. And starting off is how, Aparna, I would like to direct the question to you. After the maternity break, we see a dip in this talent pipeline. So could you shed a few words on why this is happening and how are you overcoming these challenges?
Right. So I think if you just look at the data, when it comes to women's workforce participation numbers, unfortunately, India is abysmally low on that number. And when over decades, when numbers at workforces have been tracked, they have noticed that there is a serious leakage or a serious drop in women's numbers in participation in the workforce at the 25 years to 36 years curve, which corresponds to 1 or 2 maternity cycles. And I think that is a systemic problem that we need to recognize. We can't just look at workplaces and homes as two separate silos. We have to understand two things: that why are women either not making the choice to come back to work, and when they are making that choice to come back to work, what are workplaces doing to make that journey easier and help them integrate back into the workforce. And I think we have to look at it both from your perspective as a doctor, the whole healing cycle. We have to look at it as a societal perspective, that are women really making a choice out of their own choice, or is it like an autopilot, or they don't have enough support at home that they are forced to make a particular choice? Because I think Sangeeta and Prachi will agree that
it's also about the mindset, right?
Absolutely. The data is just a number which we are getting, but we have to dig deeper and see why are we getting these trends and what can we do to change the thinking, to say that put yourself first. And also, it's not a choice between career and home. You can really do both. And what can we do to create that ecosystem where we enable people to make that free choice and do both things in their life, not just either or of them.
Exactly. And actually, for my audience, just to pique their interest, I would like to bring in, I don't know, it's a movie that just got released, Shakuntala Devi. I saw it yesterday and I was so inspired by it. It was a tumultuous relationship between a mother and a daughter. And, her life comes a full circle. The daughter is always telling her mother that you only think about your career, you only think about your maths. But when she becomes a mother, and when she is having her own program, she's showcasing the house she's refurbished. And they go on to say that, you should think about your baby. Why have you left your baby and come? And that's when it hits her. I have been looking at my mother from just a viewpoint that she's a mother. She is a woman, she's an individual, and we need to encourage this mindset, not just in the mothers, in everyone, that, you are a person, you're an individual, and you need to not lose your individuality just because you had a baby. Yes, priorities will definitely change, but we're still women, we're still individuals, and men are not asked to make this hard choice after becoming a father. Moving on, Sangeeta, can you please enlighten us how we can facilitate open conversations around the maternity break? Because I think the biggest drawback that we face, Aparna, is like the mothers are like, what if I go down in the, in the eyes of the managerial at the level, they're thinking, she's going to just leave us and she's not going to be her 100% productive self. So how do we encourage women that these are your rights and these are the conversations you need to have? Right. Over to you, Sangeeta.
Sure. So for this, it is very important to foster an organization culture that positions maternity leave as a brief pause and not a major disruption. The focus on output versus over first face time is important, and that needs to be relayed emphatically across the piece. So the importance of open conversations with returning women colleagues, and this should begin before she goes on maternity leave, and include aspects such as, how to approach leave, her communication preference while on leave, and the returning phase. Chances are that we may not be able to get it all right in one go, but the fact that we have initiated that conversation helps the woman return to work less challenged. And that is what creates avenues for open conversations around her preference, even after the woman returns to work. Small things, that make a specific plan for handovers at the start and the end of the leave. And also, there's structure then, and the colleagues know what to expect. So, well, broadly, they know.
Right.
So during the maternity break, it helps to do those check-in calls and to help maintain a sense of community for the returning moms.
So important. And what about, you just mentioned that during pregnancy itself, you should intimate to your manager or your project manager, whoever it is. So what would you suggest if I suppose we're pregnant and if I work at, say, IBM or KPMG and I'm at my 3rd month and I think it's okay for me to announce now. So when do I go and do I need to confide or do I need to make an announcement, and how to do it and when to do it and how much to tell?
So there is never a right time, but I would say a right time is when it's between the individual and the performance manager, and there's a lot of things that transpire between the two of them. So I think the earlier the better, because that helps manage a whole lot of things. Right from the, like I said, it can't be scramping at the last moment, and it's not comfortable for the woman. So the expectant mother. So it is important to have those conversations slightly earlier on, so that actually eases the whole approach to maternity leaves.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, Prachi, would you like to add to this? At your organization, when would you encourage a woman, if someone comes to you for advice and says that I'm 3 months pregnant now, I don't know when to share it with my boss. So what would you advise her?
As soon as possible, as soon as the woman is ready, and the environment at work should be such that it's very welcoming, that a woman should feel totally free to share such a brilliant news of being pregnant. And she should be so comfortable that she should be sure that the manager would welcome it, the team members would welcome it, and I would get all the support that I need. And that is the responsibility of any corporate, to make sure that the environment is welcoming enough for the woman to be comfortable to share the news as soon as possible. And that doesn't happen just by sitting and imagining that it will happen. A lot of work goes into it. So yeah, as soon as possible.
So true. And what about the fact that before we had discussed, Prachi and we had discussed that maternity leave is probably not the best answer to ensure that all women come back to work. Would you like to tell your views on the concept of parental leave? I'll just explain parental leave quickly, where both the father and the mother of the child, they take responsibility with the leaves, and it's a split leave concept, and it is, I think, applicable in Sweden and Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. And in that way, it's more like a level playing field, and women are not seen as a liability. Prachi, could I have your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have this policy in India, not in IBM, not in India as yet, but we have it in, for example, New Zealand, Australia, and many other US, UK, of course, of parental leaves. And we may have it. Actually, we are planning to have it soon in India as well. And absolutely, it's exactly that between the parents, and it could be any gender. It's just not mother and father. It could be same gender parents. It could be absolutely any gender, and they can decide who is the primary caregiver and who's the secondary caregiver. And between them, who wants to take more leaves or less leaves, or divide the leaves in such a way that the primary caregiver, whether it's okay, by default, it'll be more the mother because she's given the birth and she needs time to heal. But that's not a compulsion. That's not something which you and I can decide. That's something that the couple needs to decide. So if they can decide who wants to take more leaves between the parents, they do that. And it'll be such a relief that not every mother necessarily will have to be on long leaves and will be primarily responsible for the child. So what we do, for example, at IBM, till the time we don't have parental leaves in India, what we do is we also have paternity leaves, which a lot of companies have already, apart from maternity. But we ensure that fathers really take it. And we look at the data and see which are the parents, which are the fathers who are not really taking the leaves, and why are they not taking the leaves. And we go back to leaders and we train them, because it shouldn't be like if I'm a father and I'm taking paternity leaves and my colleagues are laughing at me.
Mindset
any such thing can happen. You don't know. So there's a lot of sort of training and self-awareness goes into it. So we just not have the policy, but we ensure that people actually make use of it.
Okay, I'll just, before I move on to the next topic, which is importance of organization and team culture, over here, let's take a small tangent where I would like to say, even though we are having the discussion on parental leave and paternity leave, but the maternity break of at least the first 2 months is extremely important for any mother from a medical viewpoint, because yes, we are all alphas now. As Aparna likes to use the word, we are all alphas now. Even the females are alphas. And now, this generation, men are actually very hands-on with the household work and child rearing duties. They are pretty hands-on. They have come a long way. But the fact of the matter remains that you are the one who have given birth. Unless it's an adoption, if you have given birth, you need that mandatory 6 to 8 weeks of rest. It's not bed rest, but a little bit of a confinement period at home, not venturing out and taking it easy, because you will be sleep deprived, and the woman is facing a lot of changes in her body, and she has to get adapted to breastfeeding, whether it's her choice or not to breastfeed. She has to get adapted in case she wants to discontinue it for whatever reason, be it medical reason, be it a mental or emotional reason, whatever it is, either breastfeed or not breastfeed, she needs that mandatory break. So if you can avail, if you're following us from somewhere in Europe and you think parental leave is the answer for you, but please think about your health first, because as long as you are well taken care of as a mom, as someone who has just given birth, your child will be happy, your entire family will be happy. Taking on to the next agenda for today is, Aparna, the importance of the team culture, how we as organizations need to change that mindset regarding the maternity leave, and we need to foster a better environment to welcome moms back. Could you please tell us a bit about that?
Thank you. So I think I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about this to make this clear. We are not just looking at the MNCs. We are looking at all companies, all workplaces in India. Whether it's a development sector, they are physicians, there are so many people who hire other people. So any format of employer-employee or workplace, I think we have to understand that maternity and paternity are realities of life. We can no longer put that entire burden of child rearing on a woman. So we see a lot of manifestations of this. People sometimes don't want to hire women, and I don't want to give a negative spin to the conversation, but I just want to put out the reality that we have to stop thinking of childbirth as something that only relates to a woman. We have to understand that two people decide to have a child, and then they take that conversation forward. I think the culture around us, not just at workplaces, and as Prachi rightly said, we have so many statistics across organizations where men who take 2 days paternity leave, they are laughed at, that why are you taking leave? Or, personally, I think 3 days paternity leave is a joke. The child has not even been able to come home and, step in when the dad is back at work. If you look at international other countries, you have at least 2 months or 3 months, if not more, of paternity leave. And there are a lot of studies that have been done that 3 months or 4 months of paternity leave, if the man can take it at any point of time, not just when the child is born, he may want to take it at month 3 when the woman wants to go back to work, or month 6. So if you really stagger the paternity leave, it can actually play that entire ecosystem health when somebody goes back to work. So I think on culture, we have to stop thinking of women as the only cause why childbirth happens. We have to really think that this is something a family decides, or a set of couple or partners decide, and both of them need to take equal responsibility on caregiving. Our approach to maternity has to look at biological aspects and caregiving aspects separately, because biological, as you rightly said, you need a few weeks or a month to recuperate, come back on your feet, but that caregiving continues for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and that burden has to be shared equitably. And while we talk about all of this, we have to really create a positive, proactive ecosystem. And companies like our panelists here are nudging the culture on a daily basis, not just about don't make fun, but also putting in systemic frameworks to encourage men to step up and say this is also your work. Because a lot of this glorification, right, that men do a lot of work, etc. I'm not here to diss a particular gender, but doing a little work and doing a lot of work and sharing it equally are three different things. And we really have to reach a point of place where I'm not doing this to help you. I'm doing this because this is my work, this is my child as well. So that culture change only when you start doing it at at your own house. You think it is your job, and I'm talking about our male counterparts who are listening in. Only when you take that onus, ye mera kaam hai, this is my work, that will you respect a woman colleague sitting in office who wants to work and who wants to come back to work, because you will understand that this is not just her duty. It's a duty any familial support structure needs to provide. Until we reach that point of acceptance, I think we are a little far away from cultural change.
Yeah. Sangeeta, would you like to expand on this topic and give your views from your experience?
So, one of the things that women shy away from doing is not being clear with their team members. For example, there's a new mother who leaves work every day, say, for example, at 4 p.m. to pick up her child from daycare. And that is the time the team sets out team huddles. Now, each day she tries to reason out something, and eventually her team members feel that she's becoming disengaged. The reality is that she's got additional responsibilities now. Now, what would have worked here is if she was able to communicate her need clearly to everybody who needed to know. And the only way to make such open conversations possible is by fostering an organization culture where colleagues can bring their whole selves to work. And that is one thing that we've been driving in KPMG from the very start. And I think that's something that's actually worked for us very well. Now, returning from leave, many women feel mixed emotions. There is anxiety, there's stress, there's even confusion, a concern about leaving the child, as Aparna pointed out, with another caregiver, and basically coming back to work. This is something, something as seemingly small as the timing of the meeting can make a big difference. For example, the meetings in the early morning or late afternoons are often difficult for new mothers who are racing to, from daycare drop-offs. Now, there is a need to build an empathy-driven culture around the team members, and they play a very large role here to create that positive impact. So essentially, dialogues should shift from "oh no, what now?" to probably "what can we do to help?" or "what do you need?" Because every family situation is different. Every pregnancy is different. So let's not assume that what worked for somebody may work for the other person as well. So it doesn't mean that one can have all kinds of requests accommodated. For example, if there's a front office staff that needs work from home, that may not be possible. But what you can do is probably have that person redistributed to another department or division which can afford, which will allow her to work from home. But the essential thing is that empathy and understanding within team is very, very critical, and that ownership lies with performance managers and the teams at large, and that's very important. And also, just to, and this is something I often mention, that as a reminder, just because a new mother's work schedule is largely defined by the pickup and drop time of her child does not make her any less passionate about what she does. So that's a good point.
So true. And Prachi, can you please throw light your ideas over here, add to what Aparna and Sangeeta have
Love
told
what
about?
Aparna and what Sangeeta said. What stays with me, what Sangeeta said, on one hand, you see a child being left after 6 months of maternity, and the other hand, if you have a work environment where you're not fully welcome, just imagine we've lost the woman employee altogether. And that is the reason why across industries we have the maximum attrition amongst women between this age group 25 to 35.
Could you please explain attrition to our audience?
Yeah, attrition is that when somebody leaves the organization. So why we have more women leaving in this middle age, 25 to 35 to 40, maybe is because of either marriage or kids or parental responsibility, which in our country somehow it comes on women more. And obviously the work is not really equipped to welcome a woman back, then she would just think that might as well stay at home to look after my child. And that is the reason why we need to really not just work on women but also work on their managers while they're away. Train your managers to how to engage with returning mothers, how to keep in touch with mothers who are on maternity, or not just mothers now, working parents, I would say, how can I as a manager be more aware, more understanding, more inclusive of a going to be parent or a new parent? What training, what webinars do we need to do, maybe for working dads like we do? We make sure they are equipped to handle a new baby. What are your responsibilities as a working dad? How can you teach your little one essential skills? How can you clearly work from home with a little baby around? So coach and call, a lot of things that parents will never ask HR or never ask their managers. We have an expert coach and call they can talk to. We have a closed Facebook group where moms can talk to each other. So you need those, groups as well, apart from all the training programs that you're doing for them. And then most importantly, what we've done, of course, and a lot of other companies are doing, and if there's anyone who's not doing, can listen to me with both your ears, is that make sure that, a lot of women lose their their ratings, their appraisal, their ratings go down. Like you just mentioned that, if I'm away 6 months, what will happen to my career trajectory? If that fear has to be eradicated. So what we've done is, if a woman goes on maternity, we rate her on her performance before she goes on maternity, like whatever time period. So we don't consider this time at all. And if at all it is considered that she would have been the best. So we've had many women who've been promoted while they were on maternity.
That is fantastic. I'm so amazed to hear that, and it really deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, our chief diversity officer of IBM got promoted when she got the job, and she got promoted when she was on maternity. And that is what makes such a big difference, that managers are being told clearly, are being trained clearly that a woman's rating can't go down. Nobody can say, oh, my team member is on maternity, therefore her name is not on the list on people to be promoted. That is not acceptable. Unless that happens, you will always struggle. As a country, as corporate, we will keep struggling. And while I say this, on the other hand, I will also tell all the women who are listening to this lovely panel, is that be very strong about what you want. So while motherhood is of course precious, and you would like to spend as much time as possible on your health, on the baby, with the baby at home, but at the same time you also have a part of your personality which is trained, which is educated to give back to the society, to work, to probably get financial independence. So don't lose on that completely. What many have done successfully is that maybe take a part-time job for some time, or like Sangeeta very nicely said, take a slightly not so front-end job. If you're not comfortable, there are many who are totally comfortable going back in 6 months to a sales job. Great. Company needs to make sure they're completely okay with it. Like we have lactation rooms in all our buildings. We have a breast delivery system, the milk delivery system. So all of that is possible. You have to make sure that those policies are in place, and the managers are trained to welcome women back, and the women are also strong enough.
Exactly. And the important thing over here is for all the mothers जो हम लोग को देख रहे हैं, important thing is do what feels right to you. Because आपको लगेगा, you're a career woman. Firstly, it's very disturbing for me to hear the word career woman and stay-at-home mom. It's just one person. Let's not define her by these things. But other than that, it's okay to take a long sabbatical. In fact, we'll be talking about that tomorrow in detail, about a long sabbatical and how you can come back and how you can bounce back. As if we're not balls, but yeah, we can bounce back. Sangeeta, as a part of building on this team culture and changing awareness, what are the mentorship programs that you had spoken about? Could you shed some light on that?
So, apart from providing ongoing support, it is important to have, mentoring programs, and there can be multiple ways of approaching this. One of the things that we do in KPMG is, for example, if someone's returning and may not want to, may want to go back to the same work pattern that they were at. And I'm just taking the example that Prachi said, say for example, a front-ending role. What we do is then we kind of match them, with somebody who had the same work pattern, an experienced caregiver, who had the same work pattern. The learnings are immense, and the experience is very, very beneficial. So we match such who are new mothers to those, who are more experienced caregivers with similar career trajectories. So that's worked really well for us. And other things would be, coaching, as Prachi also mentioned, and a strong buddy. It could be group coaching or otherwise, and also creating a buddy network which helps. And I think these things these are very, very beneficial to
these
somebody
are
coming back
prevalent
to
in KPMGs.
Yes, that's right.
That's fantastic. This mentorship program sounds great, actually, and very, tailor-made for the woman, and any organization heads and HRs watching this stream, this is something we should really, take away from here. If nothing, this mentorship program sounds amazing. And moving on to the last leg of our dialogue today is the best practices to foster inclusion. I'm going to start with Aparna. Could you please tell us what are the best ways to not just change the culture, but to ensure that we foster inclusion with our physical arrangements?
Right. So a couple of things, and I think there are 2 or 3 key pillars. So one is, of course, take that time to invest in good policies and processes. And I'm going to go a little beyond the physical infrastructure, because in a lot of organizations, when say somebody comes back to work and wants to have, say, a flexible working life, or does not want to perform, say, 18 hours in a day, there is no alternative career track available. And then, these people just fall through the cracks, unfortunately, over time. So one is that you have to take a holistic approach to all aspects of the work life and revisit it in a manner that you have very clear processes and systems put out. So as Sangeeta says, when are you reporting that you are expecting? When is the conversation a good time to happen? When do you bring people back? When are you talking to them? It could also be, do you have an upskilling program available for women? Because in a lot of sectors, say like, engineering, or even law for that matter, there could have been a lot of significant change in the 6 or 9 months when somebody comes back. And that leads to a lot of loss of confidence or self-doubt. So, how do you put in secondary programs for upskilling where somebody can feel that they are completely in touch with what has happened? Can you build in 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks when somebody walks in or joins back, as a catch-up period? Let them catch up with their colleagues, let them catch up with projects that have happened, changes that have happened in the workplace, so that they feel just more confident and included at the workplace. And I think in addition to that, I think a lot of conversations that we have on maternity is that how do you ensure, because I actually think the journey starts after the 6 months when you come back to work. How do you really build that confidence in women to have that difficult conversation? Because it is not just one day, as Sangeeta and Prachi rightly said, every time you have to get up to step out of office because you also have an important telecon, but you also have to pick somebody up. You don't want that stress or anxiety in your brain, right? And it happens all the time. In fact, it's not just about caregiving. Say you have to do 2 different things at the same time, your mind is constantly conflicted on how do you prioritize it. And if
that takes away from the quality of life.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So how do you have those conversations up ahead and lay out the plan that for the next 2 months, let's do our meetings between 12 to 4 and not do it at a particular point of time? So I'm talking about 2, 3 things. I'm talking about macro policies, which make every manager take the right decision. They have a sense of direction that what is the right decision they should take on every case. Then there are micro decisions. How do you create that sensibility or empathy or that process in the team that, yes, it's okay, we do this in a different way for the next 2 months or 3 months that's required. And I think in addition to that, on culture, this has to be an ongoing conversation. You have to have training on unconscious bias. There is so much data we can share that, women who are back from maternity, managers do not staff them on high performance projects because they think she won't be available. But, have you asked her? Have you given her that support? Are you making that decision for her? So I think a lot of these biases, this is not something we can address in one conversation. We have to structure conversations. We have to see different teams have different performance patterns, right? Some teams have lesser working hours, some teams work 18 hours in a day, some have cyclical calendar based, filings or, timelines to meet. So really we'll have to create that enabling culture where you don't look at maternity as a negative thing. You take it as a positive and take it as a given that we have to accept it and we have to adjust our work culture or our systems around it, rather than put that burden on that one person to constantly hide or not share or not come up to work with their entire requirements and what they need is. So I think if 2-3 pillars, policies and culture, can be worked out, and there are many ways this can be done, I think it will go a long way in addressing this problem.
Yeah, and more than that, a woman, she starts to feel like there's this like microaggressions happening against her. Oh, they had the meeting without me.
Absolutely.
And that also takes away from the quality of life and the job satisfaction the woman has. And that itself will reduce, the willingness to return back to work. As we said, the attrition rate will increase because of this.
And I think, and I'm going to, step out of my comfort zone and say this, that, women, you need to negotiate at home as well, because the more you give away your space, the more you will lose space. You have to assert the fact that this is an important part of your life, and you have to, unless you draw the line, people will not adjust. So, a lot of times this autopilot, and I hate the autopilot, that things just automatically assume this will happen. You have to really find that confidence. Use peer support, use employee resource groups, mentoring circles, find your own community, and BabyChakra is one of those communities where you can go back and say, no, even if it's 2 hours, I want to start doing this. Because unless you put yourself there saying, I am important, I need to do this, nothing is going to change. So start that conversation with yourself and just find that confidence to have that difficult conversation.
So true. And ladies, जो आप घर पे allow करते हो ना, that वो बोलती क्या जानने की जरूरत है, and you're like, okay, the more you allow them to do these things to you, it's just that if you're tolerating it, they'll give you more to tolerate. Just remember that. And I'm not speaking against your in-laws or your family. It could be anybody, it could be someone in your circle who'll come and just mom shame you. वो तो चलना ही है lifelong. They'll be like, oh, why are you going back to work? Even it's like distant friends, relatives, मतलब दूर के रिश्तेदार पूरा they were not there to handhold you through your recuperation and आपकी रिकवरी में वो लोग नहीं थे. But 6 महीने के बाद वो लोग आ गए, नहीं जाने की जरूरत है काम पे, बच्चा ज्यादा important है. बच्चा important है. And as long as the mother is happy, the mother is content with her quality of life. अगर उसको वो juggling का job पसंद है या उसको laid back पसंद है, वो आपका choice है. And that is the beauty of feminism. We respect everyone's choice. If a woman says, suppose like a woman, they discover the child is 3 years old now, and she discovers बच्चे को autism है या बच्चे को speech delay है, and now she prioritizes कि नहीं, I have to take a step back from my job, from my career, and give attention to my child, that will add to your quality of life. आप अपनी दिल की सुनिए. दुनिया बस बोलती रहेगी what feels right to you, whether it is taking a sabbatical, whether it is going back to work with the same amount of work pressure and the same number of hours. You are the only one who's supposed to make the decision in the best interest of yourself and your child. And Prachi, my next question is to you. Could you tell us your views on this, how to foster inclusion, the infrastructure changes, as well as your Karishma program?
I've actually talked a lot without telling you the title of the program. It's obviously called Charisma, that we introduced, and our attrition, like women leaving, have come down by 9% after we've introduced this program. So that was really big success. And what we do is we do a lot of webinars and before lockdown, they were face-to-face sessions, now webinars for new parents. So how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your children at different age group, but of course small children more. Then coach on call, I told you, Facebook community. Then we do monthly newsletters, and most important, these are things that we do directly with working parents. And then they have complete support on talking to any doctor that they need to talk to while they go before the baby's born, during pregnancy. So that happens. And then at the same time, we also training managers on being more aware on how to engage with new parents, and how to make sure that there is no discrimination, there is no microaggression in their language, in their action. The more the awareness, the better it is. It is not
just sensitize them.
Yeah.
उनको बोल नहीं सकते microaggression मत करो, because that is something you know कोई ट्रैक ही नहीं कर सकता, उसने मुझे ऐसा देखा, उसने ऐसा किया. These are the
Exactly.
examples of things, and that really takes a toll on the mother. और after delivery हमारा दिमाग थोड़ा सा, it's a little fragile and it is more receptive, it just accepts criticism so well and starts to believe it.
Yeah.
And we need to sensitize our men and other co-workers.
Yeah.
ऐसे नहीं कि सिर्फ आदमी लोग करते हैं, और दूसरी औरतें जो खुद भी माँ होगी, even they could be doing that.
Everybody does that. I want
Exactly.
to talk about that, Dr. Farah. I want to talk about that. You know, I love what Aparna started with, that love yourself, respect yourself, spend time with yourself, and then find out what you want to do. The problem is that 90% of us don't know what we really want. And that is primarily because we were never told as a little child, go by your choice. We were never really, many of us are not asked for our opinions. We are never asked, you know, when kids are around the dining table, how many kids are asked, aap kya khaoge? You know, we as parents just decide. So, yeah, so kids, and especially with women, it happens that we're not great decision makers because a lot of us were never taught how to take decisions for ourselves. So teach yourself to do that. And the best way to do that is, as Aparna said, spend time with yourself and find out. You can keep on blaming your manager, your company, the world, the in-laws, the husbands, the children, but it's your life. You have these 70, 80, 90 years. So please, define this life for yourself. And the beauty is that if I'm good to myself, I'll be good to others, and I'll be just automatically, making people a little more happy. And though that's not the objective, what I'm saying is that other people will always, it's very contagious. Other people will smell it and get it, taste it, my joy. But if I'm doing the right thing, but sulking from inside, I've left my job, but I'm actually wondering, what did I do to my career and this and that? It's no good. And the other side also, if I go back to my job and I'm again feeling guilty, oh, I left my job, left my child behind. So somewhere you have to just take a decision, go with it, that I will have the best of both the worlds. And there is a way. There is a way. Yeah. So love yourself is what I absolutely loved in what Aparna said, and respect yourself. We are not taught that, not all of us, but it's never too late. Whatever your age is, start loving and respecting yourself today.
And yeah, exactly. The way we would treat other people with the respect and the freedom to choose, we should start doing that a bit to ourselves, especially Indian women. हम ये करते नहीं हैं, हम दूसरों को we'll cut them slack, we'll judge them less. हम खुद पे जितना pressure डालते हैं ना, we don't put that kind of pressure even on our kids when they're preparing for IIT. Actually speaking. Yeah, that's true. We're very hard on ourselves, and mom guilt तो भर के लेकर आते. By the dozen we get it, mom guilt. And Sangeeta, we'd like to conclude with your comments on KPMG's best practices to make sure the inclusion happens.
So just taking cues from whatever we discussed just now, it is important then to be aware that this is a very deeply personal, individual transition for every woman, and therefore it's very special. And each case is special. Each transition is special, and that we as an organization, as team, as HR play a very critical role in influencing that experience. So what has really worked for KPMG is a very accepting organization culture, which kind of cascades to all levels. So, maternity leaves and, a good maternity policies and a good leave framework are a great first step. But the phase back is critical for retaining women who are returning to work. And we call it Continuum with a K. The program, the returnee program, is called Continuum with a K for KPMG. For that, a robust returnee program is a must that facilitates a smooth comeback, because unless you put that as a traction and in place, you will not have a success rate of women coming back. And a phase returning helps put those checkpoints during that maternity leave, where when you understand what is the specific need of the individual, how is she doing, what are some of the challenges she may be facing, what support is it that she's looking for, and rightly pointed out by Aparna also, which naturally facilitate a gradual return that goes from say 3 days a week to 4 to then 5. you need to ease that journey back. I'll give you a very quick example. This is many years ago when the maternity policies weren't as mature as they are right now. So we used to have a colleague, and there's a great example of how a performance manager actually fought with all of us to get that agreed for his team member. And he said, this employee is very critical to me, and she will work only part-time 4 hours a day, which is 20 hours a week. So we said, that's fine. But they said, no, but then she should have a flexibility of working 3 days a week. And then he said, and those 3 days could be any 3 days,
Wow.
and for us, and this is many years ago. So, at that point, it was very difficult. So first thing we think is, oh my God, how is it going to clock on the system? And then, oh my God, how is it going to be perceived by the others? But we did that. And that gave birth to a whole lot of mature policy frameworks that came about, with flexibility kicked in, agile working patterns, and all of that. So the point is, it is very important to have that phased return, and I think providing ongoing support during that time is extremely important.
So when these women, they had these agile working hours, what about the pay?
So okay, so
was there an insurance on the pay also ki itna hi pay milega? As long as the work is completed in the certain month, we are project ke hisab se hai. How was the pay structure done?
So the example I gave you was for a part-time role, and this I'm talking about many years ago. But at this point, if you look at it, it's fairly flexible. I mean, I can choose, for example, I can choose to work 8 hours, and I can split that between home and work the way I want it. So that has no impact on pay really. It's agile working. So
okay.
That's
So there's no. That's fantastic, man. You guys are really progressive from the stories I heard.
No, so see, the performance managers are big influencers in this process.
Exactly.
So and it's very important to, and the way it needs to happen is to have those specific not just guidance notes, but also a whole lot of awareness created that this is a very natural process, and
Exactly.
we need to go with the flow, and that's about it.
Aparna, we are coming back to you. Could you just build on this and talk us through how to build skill gaps and bridge the gender pay gap that arises from after the maternity break?
No, absolutely. So, couple of things, and, thanks Sangeeta and Prachi for, building that context. So couple of things, one is of course flexibility, which is where can you physically work from. But I think it's also important to look at alternative performance tracks. So, in a lot of international organizations as well, you can choose to work 20 hours, you can choose to work 3 days in a week. You can have projects where you will work on a work share basis. So instead of one person being staffed on a project, 2 people are staffed on a project. And so, there are many ways of doing this. Or you can have, if your work is project based, is that you limit your number of hours on the project. But the idea really is that instead of making it a perception based thing, that, oh, this is what we expect, and is she doing it or not doing it, you crystallize and put the framework that this job or this role, even if it's for 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, these are the parameters of performance that you have to satisfy. So that's one way of making it more objective than rather than making it subjective, where your boss is constantly unhappy for no reason, right? So you remove that kind of gap in the organization. The second bit on pay gap, and there are 2 reasons why pay gaps come, is, as Prachi rightly said, that you should not take that 9-month period as somebody not performing in the office. So you should, just as a fiction, or deem it to be the same number as if the person had been on the workplace journey. Because if we don't do that, there will automatically be a 1-year setback in every woman when it comes to the pay performance. And I think that's something we need to make sure our policies allow for that deeming provision. Now, in addition to that, for example, if people have taken more than a year off, I know of many people. So I'm not just talking about maternity returnees who have taken a break from your organization and who come back to you. I'm also talking about the larger maternity returnee programs, where, a lot of companies these days, they want to hire maternity returnees, women who have taken a 5-year break or a 6-year break or a 7-year break, and they want to come back to the workforce. So I think at some level, you have to first invest in upskilling, because there is a perceived skill, there is a previous skill, and there is an expected skill. So you have to put some program so that you can objectively measure the skill of the person after doing some skill building program. And then you have to have some formula in your mind that if somebody has not been there for 7 years, you can't just dock out 7 years completely from the chain of performance, because that's going to put the person at a level that it's impossible to really walk up the corporate structure or the ladder. So you have to have some legitimate formula, and I'm not saying that you have a formula which is doesn't make sense, but you have to give people, put a longer probation period, put 6 month probation period, then you bring them at par. You at least have to have that formula, the 2 year break versus 3 year break versus 7 year break versus 10 year break. You need to have a different catch up formula for people to come back to the workplace. And I think the most important point is that when you create alternative career tracks in the organization, you also have to ensure that your KRA, your performance, is only not based on number of hours in the office. Because in a lot of organizations, especially in the service sector, face time is supposed to be very important. Your boss is sitting in office and you're also sitting outside the cabin, and you will not leave till he leaves, right? So that kind of requirement to please people, I think we should completely do away with.
Seriously.
And if your performance metrics are based on qualitative performance rather than quantitative performance, and they can even out the quantitative gap, that will automatically make sure that the gender pay gap does not come up, because you are really looking at the contribution somebody is putting today rather than a artificial number of hours in the workplace.
Prachi, could we have your views on the how to level out the gender pay gap for maternity returnees?
Well, data is the best thing. Look at it. Look at three things. First, look at how many women are you really hiring, business wise. Really look at the numbers vis-a-vis other genders. Then look at how many women are you promoting, again vis-a-vis other genders. So look at promotions, and look at how many women are leaving vis-a-vis other genders. So you've really taken care of the three things: hiring, promotion, and leaving. I'm scared of using the word attrition now, Dr. Farah. Look at that. That is one. Another is once you have set the culture in where somehow managers understand that going on maternity is not a crime. We don't have to, it's a beautiful thing to happen in someone's life, and it's just part of life. And women get promoted in the organization even when they're on maternity. When they come back, it's an understanding that there has to be flexibility. She needs to take 4 or 5 breaks in a day to express milk, come back. It's an understanding. It doesn't mean when she's here in front of her desk she'll be less engaged. In fact, she'll be more engaged if the managers, the environment is good enough. So gender pay gap, look at it. Are there women getting bad ratings or bad performance appraisal once they come back from maternity? Question it and don't live with it. If there are HR or business leaders listening to this talk, don't live with it. You have to change that. Why should women not get great numbers, great promotions, great ratings once they've come back from maternity? It's not a crime that they've been on maternity. And obviously, if their ratings are not good, then their increments will not be good, their promotions will not happen, and the gender gap will only widen. So like what we've done is, at IBM, we don't ask for, if I apply with IBM, they won't ask me what my current salary is. It is completely finished. They just pay me, hire me for the job. They don't ask me at all what my current, I can be earning 10 rupees, and if they pay 100 rupees for a job, they'll just pay me 100 rupees. That's it. It doesn't matter what my current salary is. So these are small things that you will have to do. Well, this is not a small thing, this is a big thing. And the existing gap has to be reduced by looking at how many promotions, what kind of hiring are you doing. Keeping a tab on data analytics is really important. Apart from doing all the inclusion sessions and leading without bias trainings on microaggressions. And most importantly, I think the message for women is that all this is happening because we women can work just fantastically well at work. So it is not to take it easy. It is not that I've become a mother and now I'll take it easy and maybe perform a little less. No, my performance has to be really sparkling bright to make sure that I use all the facilities but really perform well, so that they know that a mother is really a blessing. not somebody to be avoided.
So
And
true.
become great role models to our children at all
Exactly.
times.
Yes. So true. This brings us to the end of this conversation. I was really having fun talking to these three wonderful women, Aparna, Sangeeta, Prachi. Thank you so much for joining us. And if any of you who have joined late, you can watch the stream again. And if you still have any doubts, you need some more handholding to what to expect in your maternity break as a mother, as a person who's recovering from a life-altering event, as well as a person who wants to return back to work, you can buy my book, Newborns and New Moms. There's an entire chapter devoted to maternity break with a lot of insights about how to take care of your breast milk, pumping schedules, the things you need to do as a mom, as well as things that you can do at work to ensure all these things that these wonderful women highlighted, the important conversations to have with your manager. And in case someone know your rights, this book will also tell you what rights do you have. And going for a pumping session is not a luxury. It is not, they're not pampering you. Kuch ehsan nahi kar rahe tum pe. That is your right. Please know that. That brings us to the end of the session. Continuing on the same note, tomorrow, join us for the 5th day of the BIB Summit. Tomorrow, we are having a talk on the new normal, work from home, changing career options in this new normal because of losing jobs or the maternity break. We're going to be talking about all of that, the sabbatical. So tomorrow's topic is work from home, the new normal for mothers. Thank you so much, Aparna, Sangeeta, and Prachi. Let's stay in touch. It was so wonderful connecting with you ladies. This is the end of day 4 of the BIB Summit.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you so
Farah.
much. Thank you.
Bye, guys.